take a walk down the aisle of any fancy supermarket. Yes, you. Go do it right now. I'll wait for you. Go ahead. Okay, you should be there by now. Turn away from that chocolate aisle, yes you, and take a brisk walk with me down this savoury aisle. You should see around you a concoction of new forms of bread. Let's take a look at this one. Look at the weird colours on it. Organic bread. So what's so special about this type of bread, you may ask? Well, these are breads made without pesticides. Yes, completely organic. All forms of other bread are made through pesticides along with the main ingredients. A sizable portion of conspiracists believe this is a government-sanctioned monopoly which could be killing us right now. Hello fellow conspirators and welcome to our channel, Conspiring Conspirators. Subscribe and share if you haven't. Enjoy! Since the dawn of the agricultural period, humanity has begun farming their surroundings, tilling the ground for weeks and weeks to come to attain a bountiful harvest. However, we've had significant problems with bugs and critters eating our harvest throughout the seasons. This drastically decreased our overall productivity along with output. Recently, scientists began countering this through the introduction of pesticides sprayed on crops. Often, this is done through the use of aircraft. Conspiracists, however, argue this introduction of poison into our food could be killing us. Rachel Carson, a 20th century nature writer, scientist, and ecologist. She was an avid environmental activist and, interestingly enough, chief among those who called for the destruction of pesticides. As she tiptoed her way onto the podium to address the panel, she shook due to age. Once there, she argued pesticides entered the biosphere, which then impacted the food chain to threaten all forms of life. Conspiracists argue plenty of scientists such as Carson prove that pesticides are harming our health. More recently, a July 2007 study conducted by researchers at the Public Health Institute, the California Department of Health Services, and the UC Berkeley School of Public Health found a 6-fold increase in risk factor for autism spectrum disorders due to pesticides. Essentially, conspiracists argue that pesticides are killing us, yet simply due to the higher yield ration, they are being allowed. Thus, profit is cared for more than human life. On the other side, we have the mainstream argument. The mainstream argument contends with the idea that pesticides are harmful to our society. It is argued that pesticides have saved more people than they have killed. Due to an increase in productivity, more crops could withstand the time. Thus, less people die. They also argue that the destruction of pests and viruses benefits society as a whole. There are significant risks associated with leaving pests uncontrolled, and in some cases, pesticides are the only viable alternative. Uncontrolled pests could wipe out a significant portion of the population due to infected food. Essentially, they argue that pesticides have benefited humans more than it has hurt them. Thus, we should continue using them. Alright, now let's get down and dirty. So what does the con scale say about this? Alright, the Y section here seems plausible. The government turns a blind eye to large companies due to profit yield granted from the system in place. Hence, I give this section a 8 out of 10. As for the how section, well, this has already been implemented. We already have an answer to this section. It's a 10 out of 10. Yes, the first 10 out of 10 here. Now let's just continue. As for the who benefits section, it's a clear-sided trade. Corporations benefit greatly from the use of pesticides. Larger yield leads to larger profits. Thus, I grant this section a 7 out of 10. This conspiracy actually has a vast array of scientific studies backing it up. Thus, I also grant this section a 7 out of 10. Finally, let's recap both our arguments on the screen. Conspiracists argue that pesticides are harming our children, our environment, and our general livelihoods. The government, it's said, turns a blind eye simply due to profit, while the mainstream argues that pesticides are majorly beneficial to society and thus should be kept here. Around here at Conspiring Conspiracists, we support the latter argument marginally. hence giving the argument section a 4 out of 10. Okay, so let's give this a final score. Alright, that's a 7.5 out of 10. The conspiracy, according to the con scale, holds a lot of merit. If you're worried about eating pesticide-ridden food and want to actively change what you eat, don't bother. Pesticides are in the air we breathe. Instead, lobby your parliament to bring forth harsher laws. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed our video. Hit us up with a like and subscribe for even better videos. What do you think about this conspiracy? Do you disagree with our scale? Discuss this in our comment section.